Hello! So good to have you here. If it's your first time on one of my live trainings, please say hello below and put a little one so I know to say hi to you and welcome you. And if you are one of my beloved clients and friends who's been in my world for a long time, please share how you're doing and just say hi because I am so grateful to have you here always. So today we're going to talk about, is it really gaslighting? Okay, is it really gaslighting? Because people are talking a lot about, that person's actually gaslighting you. And a lot of people are like, oh my God, I didn't even know I was being gaslit, but I was being gaslit. And it's kind of become this hot topic. And as usual, I think things can kind of get blown out of the water on the internet and we lose perspective. So for all of you who are into this concept of gaslighting, I'm going to tell you a little story from my life. And you can comment below if it's gaslighting or not. And you can keep track of this. We're going to play a game. And we're going to play a game because there's too much seriousness in this world and it's too boring and we need more fun. And improving your relationships doesn't have to be dour and like, oh, I'm working on myself. I'm working on my relationships, like heavy climbing Mount Everest with a backpack full of resentments. No. It can be whatever you want it to be. And with me, it can be fun and it can be exciting and we can play with it. We can play with it. So I'm going to tell you a story from my pre-kids, pre-marriage day, when I used to do wild stuff, and I want you to tell me what you think is going on here. Is it gaslighting? Is it not gaslighting? So I decided when I was in my 20s, and I had been single for some time, that I wanted to go on a solo adventure. And not only that, I didn't have a car at the time. Not only that, I wanted to hitchhike. I was going to take the ferry to Vancouver Island, and then from Vancouver Island down to the Olympic Peninsula, and then go hiking and backpacking, backcountry camping, down the coast of the Olympic Peninsula, back into Seattle, and all the way home to Vancouver. And I was going to do this without a car, and so I was going to hitchhike. Now, as you can imagine, I got all kinds of responses to this. But one of the most common ones was, Shiloh, like, this is crazy. Are you sure you want to do this? Like, that's not safe. Don't you know what happens to people when they go hitchhiking? Like, you're a young woman. I don't think you should do it. Like, this is a bad idea. Like, are you being kind of naive? So they were invalidating my reality. They were telling me I was wrong. They were telling me I had a bad idea. And they were telling me that my thinking was incorrect, right? Like, you think you're going to be fine. You think that you're going to have a good time and meet nice people. And we think you're going to be attacked and maimed and other things. Is that gaslighting? Is that gaslighting? Now, when we move it outside of the realm of romantic relationships, people can be like, that's not gaslighting. They're just disagreeing with you. Like, they just don't think you should go. But what if it was my husband and I said, I really want to take a dance class. And he's going, that's a bad idea. Like, I don't think you should take it. And you're probably not going to enjoy it anyways. Invalidating my experience, invalidating my reality. It seems like he's trying to control me. But is it gaslighting? Even though he's giving me an alternate reality and telling me how it is. Well, I think it's kind of obvious it's not gaslighting. So what about when you have an argument with your husband and you say, you promised that you were going to pick up the kids from school today and now you didn't do it. And I'm mad because you promised me and you didn't do it. And now, there's this hectic thing and I got to run and get it myself. And he says, I never promised that. I didn't promise you. I never promised you I'd pick them up. And you said, we had a conversation about this. I remember it. I said, can you pick the kids up on Thursday? And you said yes. And here you are. You're gaslighting me. You're telling me that my reality is not what it is. And you're trying to make me doubt that this conversation actually happened. Is that gaslighting? Well, that's where it gets a little more complicated, doesn't it? Because what was the objective reality? Was the objective reality that you had that conversation, or was it that you didn't have the conversation? Well, maybe the objective reality is that you had the conversation. But now we have to go into his subjective reality, which includes forgetfulness. Does he remember that you had the conversation? If he remembers that you had the conversation, he knows full well you had the conversation, we might be sliding over into gaslighting because he's lying about it on purpose. Now, it's not full-on gaslighting, because gaslighting is really about making you doubt your reality, not just getting yourself out of trouble, right? Like, getting yourself out of trouble is something most people try to do through defensiveness, through whatever. Sometimes people lie, right? For example, say someone's getting cheated on and they say, did you spend time with this woman? And they say, no. They're just lying. You know, garden variety, get myself out of jail card. So what do you do when you say to your husband, you said you'd pick up the kids and he said, no, I didn't? Now you're in that territory of rage, flames, and somebody says to you, he's gaslighting you. You had that conversation and he just doesn't want to admit it. You know, he's gaslighting you. And then you say to your husband, you're gaslighting me. I know we had this conversation and now you're telling me we didn't. And I won't doubt my reality because I know it's true and you're trying to make me feel like I'm crazy. Just like those assholes on the internet. You're gaslighting me. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, I have no idea what you're referring to. We didn't have the conversation. I don't remember it, blah, blah, blah. So when it comes to pathological behaviors like gaslighting, we really have to look for a pattern. Doing it once is not really the thing. You know, lying once, invalidating your reality once in a context, that's not really what it is. One of the key differences is that gaslighting is a systematic campaign. In our chats on my Facebook group, someone used that phrase. I thought that is a really good way to put it. It's a systematic campaign to have you doubt your reality. It's not just disagreeing with you. It's not having a different experience. It's not even trying to convince you to have a different experience. So one of the common things that will happen between men and women, I'll give you an example. So one of my clients will say to her husband, you know, I'm not feeling safe in this relationship. Like, I don't feel safe. And he's like, what are you talking about? I would never hurt you. Why would you say that to me? You think I'm some kind of monster that like you're going to say you don't feel safe? And she's like, but I don't feel safe. Like, now he's trying to tell me that I can't feel how I feel. He's gaslighting me. He's telling me that like I'm unreasonable or I'm insane or my perception of my own feelings is not to be trusted, not to be accepted. This is a very, very common situation. I would not call that gaslighting. I don't believe that's gaslighting. And the reason that that's not gaslighting is because any two people have a different subjective reality. Our experience of the world, our interpretations of the world are different. All you have to do is talk to family members about what it was like when you were kids, and they will have a totally different story about what mom and dad did, about what mom and dad said, about what it was like to grow up. And you're like, wow, weren't we both there? And you can say, oh, that's just because you were kids, and, you know, kids' memories is kind of foggy. But that happens with adults, too. You might go on a family holiday to Mexico, and you all check into this, like, all-inclusive, and you go and sip your drinks, and there's childcare for the kids, and you go to the village, and you go to the beach, and you're thinking, this was perfect. I didn't have to do anything. It was really relaxing. The food was great. And you call up your sister, you know, a week after, and you're doing the debrief, and you say, oh, wasn't that so great that mom and dad paid for us all to go to this all-inclusive, and I just needed that break so much. It was so wonderful. And she's like, are you serious? That place was a dump. Like, they were spraying for bugs all the time. It stunk like insect repellent. The food was like degrade. Like, I don't know what you're talking about, but it was terrible. And plus, mom and dad only paid because no one will hang out with them unless they pay for everything. They just want to control us. And you're like, oh, damn. Like, this person had a totally different experience of exactly the same location, exactly the same stuff, based on their own temperament, their own perceptions, their own personality. Now, this is something I work with so deeply in my magical marriage mentorship, because we think that only our reality is real and other people are weird, are dumb, are unhealthy, are unevolved. That's how everybody thinks. Nothing's wrong with you if you think that way. But that's our natural egocentric perspective. And so when we go with a complaint or criticism or need to our partner and they brush it off like really easily, like, oh, that's not a thing, or why are you feeling unsafe, or come on, why would you even have a problem with this? We're horrified, right? We're like, oh my gosh, this person either they're gaslighting me because they're trying to convince me I'm crazy, or they're just an asshole, or they're just like a bad person, and how could they? And it can become a really, really big, really painful story, which makes us really, really, really hurt. And when we're that hurt and disappointed, it changes the way we behave. It changes the way we see our husband. It changes everything about our relationship, and we enter into a downward spiral. This is where all my clients find me. They're in a bit of a downward spiral. They're like, things are just not getting better, and it feels like they're getting a little bit worse. And it seems like the more I try to fix things, the worse they get. This person must not want a good relationship. They must be gaslighting me. They must be so traumatized. They must be a narcissist. They must be avoidantly attached. And we diagnose them. We diagnose them with all these pathologies in order to make sense of how on earth can they not see what I'm seeing? Why can't they see what I'm seeing? And that's because they are a different person from you. They were born in a different place. They had a different family. They have a different temperament. They probably have a different experience of everything. Also, men and women have different brains. They have different hormones. They have different societal conditioning. So I want you to expect that people have a different reality than you, not just your husband, but your kids and your mother-in-law and everybody. When you expect that people have a different reality than you, it's so liberating. Oh my goodness. Because then instead of trying to justify your own reality or crush it and be like, oh, I'm wrong, I'm crazy, you can just accept, I have a reality, they have a reality. So I want to move on to this point of making you feel crazy, making you doubt your inner experience. And this is a really sticky one too, because some of my clients have a very loose sense of self. And what I mean by that is they're not sure if what they perceive is true. They're not sure if they're allowed to have needs or wants. They're not sure if what they're asking for is a valid ask. And so it doesn't take much for them to doubt their inner experience. All it takes is a little resistance, a little pushback, a little defensiveness on the part of their husband. So this might be, hey, you know, I really don't like it when you stay out till 5 a.m. and then sleep up till noon the next day. I want to spend time with you. And he's like, what else do people do on the weekend? Like, come on, these are my friends. What am I going to do? Sit at home like a grandma? Why are you acting like you're 70 years old? Like, this is how people have fun. And then the woman is like, maybe he's right. Maybe that is how people have fun. Maybe I am a grandmother, even though I'm 35. Maybe I am expecting, you know, unreasonable things from this man. And so he's gaslighting her. Oh, a sneeze coming. Excuse me. So then, if you put into the rubric, doubt your own reality, well, then you're very easily doubting your own reality, because anytime he contradicts your reality or asserts his reality, you're like really wobbly on it. You're like, maybe I'm too needy. Maybe I'm too demanding. Maybe I'm too much. Maybe I should just like quiet down. This is a very, very common experience for all my clients. They are not sure if they can want what they want. They're not sure if it's fair or if it's something that they can ask for. My little guy is interrupting. Seiji, I'm in the middle of a live. Can you please do whatever you want downstairs? Bye. I've got a 5-year-old who's homesick from school today. Oh, he's 6 now. Sorry, Sage. He's 6. And he's a sweetheart. But, okay, so coming back to having a strong sense of self or a weak sense of self. When I work with you and we go through our inner intimacy and getting clear on what you desire and what you want out of life, what you develop is a strong sense of self. And I call this the queen, right? The queen is not confused. She's not uncertain. She's not like, I don't know, what should I do? What can I do? She's just like, this is what I want. Let me think about how I'm going to live my life to achieve that. Oh, this is what I need. Let me ponder how am I going to communicate that most effectively. Developing a strong sense of self is absolutely critical for feeling loved, adored, respected, and cherished in your relationship. Because if you don't have a strong sense of self, what you do is you collapse into the man in your life and you let him kind of dictate everything. And then you really don't like your life together because he's dictating everything and nothing really suits you. And then he's a control freak. And why does he have to be that way? And why can't he ask you what you need? And instead he just does whatever he wants. Well, that's because he has a really strong sense of self, which means he knows what he wants. He knows what he needs. He's going to go do it. And unless you arrive in your full height, in your full power and sovereignty, he's not going to see you. He's going to be like, there's something wavy gravy over there that I don't know what it means. So I'm just going to go forward on my path. So if you don't have a strong sense of self, just about anybody can have you doubting your reality. But if we reel it back, gaslighting is a systematic campaign that is on the offensive. Like, have you heard that phrase, the best defense is a good offense? That's how a gaslighter works. They're like, I'm not going to wait for her to have a complaint. I'm not going to wait for her to come and assert her needs and develop her sense of self. I'm going to systematically dismantle her sense of self before we even get to any conflict. One of the commenters on my Facebook group said, this person would steal his wife's clothing and hide it or throw it away or whatever, and then she'd be like, oh, where's that shirt? And he'd be like, I don't know, you're crazy, you keep losing stuff. Like, whoa, right? This is sinister. If you know the original definition of gaslighting, it was turning down the gas lamp so that it was very dim in the house, and the wife being like, why is it so dark in here? And him being like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. You're crazy. It's fine. To the point which she could be committed to an insane asylum for being insane because he broke down her basic sense of reality. He went at it from a sideways angle without her noticing, to the point where she couldn't tell which way is up. Again, a woman who has a poor sense of self as in a high conflict relationship will also be very confused and uncertain about herself. A woman who is in a gaslighting situation will be very confused about herself. They both will, but there's a different reason for it. Now, if you're in a relationship where you have a strong sense of self and you're like, this is not fair, this is not fair, this is not fair, you're not being gaslit. You're just having a power struggle. Good old-fashioned power struggle where you're going at him and saying, this is how it should be, and he's fighting back and saying, no, it should be my way, and you're wrong. Okay? Defensiveness is not gaslighting. Defensiveness is by definition reactive, right? Defensive people don't go on the offensive. A lot of men are very defensive. I mean, women can be very defensive too. This is one of the 4 horsemen of apocalypse, according to the Gottman Institute. So defensiveness is a very destructive trait in relationships, but is not a malevolent, sinister campaign like gaslighting is. Defensiveness is exactly what it sounds like. We are defending our good character. I'm a good person. I'm a good woman. I'm a good man. Don't tell me those things. That would mean I'm a bad person. So something as simple as, hey, like, you really hurt my feelings when you didn't follow through and, do that project I asked you to do around the house. And he's like, hurt your feelings? It's just a door that squeaks. Why are you making such a big deal out of this? And you're like, whoa, 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 I just try to tell you how I feel. And he's like, well, maybe you're too sensitive. The door's not that big of a deal. And you're like, you're gaslighting me. I'm allowed to be hurt feelings about the door. You're having a garden variety power struggle. You're having a fight because his reality and your reality are conflicting. Your reality is, if you don't fix the door, you don't care about me. If you don't fix the door, you don't respect me. You're not listening. You're not taking action. I feel alone. I feel ignored. That's your reality. His reality is, that's a door that squeaks. It's not a big deal at all. It has nothing to do with how I feel about you. I was doing other stuff. I forgot. So he thinks you are absolutely blowing this thing out of proportion to the moon, and you think he's being an absolute jerk for invalidating everything you feel in this world. That is normal stuff. That is really normal stuff. That is not gaslighting. Okay? That is, if I've hurt my wife's feeling, I'm a bad man. So a lot of men take this really seriously. They don't want to ever hurt our feelings. And in the process, they hurt our feelings by trying to pretend like there's no reason that they hurt our feelings. If you can follow that, you've got a big piece of the puzzle. We say, you hurt my feelings. And he says, uh-oh, only bad men hurt people's feelings. I love my wife, and only bad husbands make their wives cry. I'm not a bad man. I'm a good man. I'm honest, loyal, hardworking. This is all the traditional masculine traits that make me good provider. I do what I'm supposed to do. But she's crying. So if I listen to what she says, it's going to crush me. I'm going to feel shame. I'm going to feel, oh no, I'm a bad person. I can't deal with that. So even before that emotion pops up, I decide to tamp her down. Your feelings should not be hurt because, honey, you're actually in a good situation. Listen, dear, the house is safe. We have money. We have cars. I'm honest. There's no danger. So you should not be hurt. He doesn't say it nicely like that, but that's kind of what he's doing. And we feel horrified and crushed because what we really need is to be heard and seen and witnessed as women. And that particular exchange is worth a price of admission because that is at the root of so much pain and suffering in our relationships. And it's what I help you navigate, right? It's what I help you to pull apart and put back together so it can grow into a beautiful garden. Instead of just like all these weeds and nothing works and you're constantly trying to get your needs met and it's not working. Okay, so let's talk about gaslighting and why we do not want to accuse people of gaslighting. We never want to accuse people of gaslighting. And this is why. If you're in a relationship where you are being gaslit, while this person is running a systematic campaign on you to change your environment and then tell you that's not the way it is, to lie to you all the time about things so that you doubt what really happened, and to basically destroy your sense of self, you need to not be in that relationship because that is so incredibly destructive to your identity, to your soul. You need to not be in the relationship. But why don't you accuse him? Because this is a dangerous person. Someone who is capable of gaslighting is dangerous. They are manipulative and brilliant at it. They are systematically conning you, right? They're changing your whole worldview about yourself and the world. So you don't want to give them any information. You don't want to fight with them. You don't want to hook in. You want to back away slow. That is what you do when someone is actually gaslighting you. You carefully and quietly remove yourself from their life. You don't give them any more energy. You don't accuse them. Anything you say to them will be used against you in the future. You should know this already if that's your situation. So if you're being gaslit, that person should not be in your life, and you need to find any means necessary to remove yourself. Now, what if you're not being gaslit, but you're being invalidated? Your person's being defensive. He's trying to shut you down. He's trying to tell you, that things aren't what they are and you shouldn't feel that way. You have a defensive man. You have a man who's not really having the skills to hear you and support you. And you also have a power struggle dynamic where you're trying to force your reality on him and he's trying to force his reality on you. And when you have two people who have decent sense of self, nobody is going to back down because you don't want to say, oh, your reality is real where my feelings don't get to be heard. And he doesn't want to say your reality is real where I have to be a bad guy and a loser who sucks at marriage, right? Who makes his wife cry all the time. So why don't you accuse him of gaslighting? Accusations and diagnoses is an act of war in marriage, in relationship. And that's because you are going out of your lane and saying, you are a narcissist. You are gaslighting me. I am telling you what your intentions are. I'm telling you what you are. And I'm telling you things that I can't know. I can't know that for sure. I'm going to give you some really important concept here. One of the basic principles of magnetic communication, of communicating in such a way that actually draws you closer, is only speaking of things that you know for sure are true, 110%. And why is that important? Because anytime you veer outside of what you know is true, you're using language as a weapon. You're using it to control. You're using it to manipulate, right? We're using it to get his attention. We're using it to slap him. We're using it to punish him for how he's talking to us. Never has a man said, oh, I'm gaslighting you. I will go do some research and stop doing that. He'll just be like, why are you telling me I'm a bad person? This was the problem from the begin with. We will often escalate our accusations in order to try and wake this person up, but it'll only get worse because now you are becoming the attacker. And he is going to become more and more defensive. So we want to have crystal clear energy in our communication. So all we talk about is what we know is true. And all that we know is true is our own reality. All we know that is true is our own self and maybe some facts on the ground, but without interpretation. So whenever we're saying, you don't care about me, you don't respect me, you don't know that. You don't know what's going on inside him. You're now telling him how it is. This is very disrespectful. It's very damaging to your relationship. And I'm sorry, I know it's something a lot of us have done because we don't know what else to do. What we're communicating is, I feel alone, I feel unheard. And we're using it as a weapon. You this, you this, you this. Anytime you're saying you're A and it's not wonderful man, you are weaponizing your feelings. And that will lead to the absolute breakdown of your relationship. Okay, so when you're watching this, I want you to put your comments below. What are some experiences you've had that were actually gaslighting? Share with us, because women who are in relationships that have normal problems do not understand how severe gaslighting is, and they will benefit immensely from those examples. Women who are feeling invalidated and that their man is being defensive, share some scenarios. Let people see this is some stuff that so many of us deal with. You're not alone. It's a common problem. It's a human response. It's just how we protect our egos. Women and men do it too. Think of the last time you were criticized and how you responded. Probably defensively. It's really a knee-jerk reaction. This whole process is how you untangle a power struggle where you're this, you're a bad person, and you don't care, and I'm the good person, and I'm doing my best, and that thinking pattern will continue to drive your relationship downward. So we have to completely change our thinking. What if this is a good man? What if he's doing his best? What if he actually cares so much about my feelings that he has a hard time hearing them? This doesn't mean that your feelings are put aside. It doesn't mean that your desires are shoved under the rug. Quite to the contrary. Because when you become very clear on your inner world and very good at communicating magnetically, he begins to listen and he begins to hear, because your authenticity, your clarity, your self-worth is just like, it's that clear ping coming through. It penetrates the defenses. I could go on and on and on, but I feel like this is getting long. And I talk so much more about this in my programs, Happily Married Woman, which you can also access at any time. I would love to speak to you. If you've been here this long, you're like, there's something resonating. I need to talk to Shiloh. I have a free 1-hour connection assessment. This is worth a ton. My clients pay much more for this than free, obviously, but because it's your first time speaking to me and I understand that all of this work is a sacred trust. You're not just going to go talk to someone who you don't believe their process, trust they're a good person, know they can help you, know they're not going to judge you, right? You need to talk sometimes. So message me or comment below and sign up for my free consultation. And what I'll do is I'll really help you see, is this gaslighting? Is this defensiveness? Is this emotional abuse? Or is this normal male and female problems? And sometimes it's so easy to turn it around and we can't see it. And that is such a tragedy to me. That's such a tragedy. Thank you so much for opening your heart, for sharing this space for me and sharing your comments. I love to see the interaction. It really motivates me to create more and more. And thanks for Jackie for suggesting this topic. If you have any other topics you have questions about, comment them below or message me, because I love to make content that really serves you and meets your needs. I can't wait to hear from you. Talk soon.